But before we get too far into this, we do want to acknowledge there is a bit of a civil war going on. One Piece fans are bared their fangs at Toei after a perceived slight against the lovely Sanji.
Yeah, this whole thread is like a straight up conspiracy theory that Toei has something against Sanji, and I looked at this and I'm like, oh my god, you guys are being really stupid about this. Like you're talking to someone that covers manga and anime adaptations. I have my gripes with manga and anime adaptations, but I'm not sending death threats to the staff. I'm not doing any of that. No, ask questions. Well, when I asked questions about Kakiguri at a MAPPA panel back in like 2018 and why there was an anime original ending and not the actual gambling tower, which would have been perfect, they said that that's what the director wanted to do. So, yeah, the director has the final say in everything, and people need to understand that
I
because they
love
think that what?
I love these 9/11 was an inside job lines. It's like this is where the tower hit. This is where the tower hit Sanji right here.
Yeah, I
When
know,
the
right?
second tower flew into Sanji.
These people are wild, man. And like the Zoro fans are going in on them too. It's just crazy.
So, as I understand it, this is all about the anime not living up to the perceived representation in the manga. Is that what I
Yes.
am? Okay. So their
Yes. And there was
imaginations told a better story than what the animation studio put out. Is that what I'm
well,
getting?
that's part of it, but like there's also they claim that there is a scene where Sanji that was supposed to be in it and it was skipped, but I think it was if you waited like a second or a couple seconds longer, Sanji did show up there. And this does happen too from time to time, I've noticed as well, where you have to wait a little bit to see the character that's supposed to be in the frame. See, that's the one I'm talking about. That's the one they're pissed off about the
You see
most.
right here, this doesn't look like a Cessna flew into the Pentagon. This looks like a missile hit the Pentagon. This red square looks like to me, this is like a missile hit the Pentagon, not a Cessna. I don't understand.
Oh my god. But like here's
I
my
don't get
thing.
this. I don't get it. I'm sorry, I'm too old. I'm too old, fellas. You got me. I don't get it.
Here's my thing. Like I have my gripes with Toei. They treat the Saint Seiya series like crap, and I really wish they would free the license so someone else would take it. But One Piece, Toei is putting like the most into One Piece, and I think it's even more than Dragon Ball. Actually,
Mm.
they put way they
Hold it. It looks like 73% of you watching this aren't subscribed. Time to click that button. You know where to find it.
have invested so much in One Piece. Like
I
other anime wishes they would have this.
Yeah, I would say that One Piece is the royalty of anime. I don't. Goku didn't even get the Vegas ball. Remember that big Vegas
Yep,
Sauron eyeball thing? They
yep,
put Luffy's face on it for like a whole what 4 months? It was a
yep.
long time that that was there, and Goku never got that. Even when they had that movie come out recently, when Daima was a
When
big
Daima
deal.
and even
Yeah,
superhero. I don't remember if they did anything when Toriyama died.
no,
At
not with the
this year,
Vegas
no,
ball. No,
no, not with the
no,
biggest ball.
nope, nope. It was all One Piece is the only anime that I know of that has been featured on the Vegas ball.
And One Piece is having all these collabs with different sports teams too, like,
Yeah.
and they've been on Times Square,
So
and
it's like
so
these
it's like you
couple of
guys are being
frames
dumb.
that are missing a main character in it, right? Okay. And even in the manga, there's like little doodled in the back, even. He's not like fully defined there. Maybe, maybe it's okay. After 20 years of this, well, it's 25 years now, right?
Yep, over
25 years of
25.
this?
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys. Like, it's not the end of the world if Sanji's not like completely 100% manga and imagination accurate. Like, we're running into this now where we have these folks that are our age that grew up with manga being like sort of late introduction into their lives. So like you get it around like 12 or 13 where it wasn't like prominent for us. And then the Zoomers and the Alphas, they've always had it. It's been right there with the regular comic books. It's even consumed the space of the comic books used to be. So they've never known a time where this stuff wasn't like this. So I guess it just must be like a gratitude issue, maybe, where they just don't understand. Like, yeah, the book's always going to be better, buddy. That's the old power of the decision engine up here. You know, your imaginator does a better job than the animator. It's not their fault. You just have an unlimited budget up here, buddy.
Well, it's also like the manga, it's a whole different thing. I mean, it's what mainly it's like a small group of people drawing it because you have the mangaka and then you have the assistants too. And
Mm.
they're not, yeah, they have deadlines and stuff like that too, but at the same time, they have a lot more creative freedom than, say, animators do.
And then again, like, look at this. Like, you could end up with Blue Lock's animation style. And this isn't even like big, high selling One Piece chapters either. This stuff
No,
that we're looking right here is just stuff that it's not filler, but it's not the stuff that they're like, we're gonna make an OVA about this, you know? They're not, you know, that kind of thing.
no,
And
they're not getting even like the beginning of the Yen's animation, which is just as bad as Blue Lock season 2. You're not getting like you don't have JC staff situation happening where they're like straight up butchering works of art. You don't
mm.
have that happening.
Well, you know, and when we look back, remember when One Punch Man got completely butchered? You know, you remember that?
Oh yeah, it's
That
getting
you
butchered
remember that?
again.
Again. It never ends.
It
It
never
never
ends.
ends.
It's because it's JC staff, and JC staff it wants to put out 10 animes a year. That's
Right.
what that's what's going on. Toei, you don't have that problem. Hell, Toei has a union for their animators.
Well, look at
Toei's the
this. What
only
do they
one that
want?
does.
Look at what do they want? This isn't even a full like sketch. This is like a little tiny Sanji that's down in the corner of a panel.
It looks stiff. That's what I would say. Is it just looks stiff, and
I don't
there's
think
not as much
so.
patterns on the. Well, there's not as much. You see, Sanji in the panel is kind of leaning back a little bit with his neck, and there's also you have the shirt is not completely accurate because, and this is a problem that happens in anime adaptations as it is, where I think it's mostly to save money is why they don't do like all the pattern clothing and stuff that you see in the manga,
Well,
which
yeah.
drives me up the wall. I hate it so much.
Well, you
But
end up with that
yeah,
cell situation though, nerdigans, where you got to draw
mhm.
every panel with 100 little spots in it that have to stay in the same space. Nobody wants to do that.
There's also the other thing that bugs me too is his hair. Sanji's hair kind of is it's it's too flat. It's kind of giving hair helmet. It doesn't have like that. There's not, first of all, there's not enough hair on his head. It's also like really flat. It looks like a hair helmet. And that's another problem that's in anime adaptation or anime in general, really, is that there's a lot of hair helmet realness happening, a lot of stiff motion happening. And hell, something else I've been noticing a lot more lately is they're slimming down muscular characters, which is very, very bizarre.
I I got to be honest with you, is I don't notice it. I'm just glad there's an anime. I'm sorry. I'm just one of those people that's like, thank you for animating it. I'm just grateful it didn't look like Blue Lock. That's all.
I'm very picky because I cover these. I've been covering One
Are you
Piece
kidding
since
me?
like
There's
2016.
another thread from March?
Yeah,
May of last year, rather? My God.
yeah, these people are obsessed,
This is
and this is coming from someone that is obsessed with this kind of stuff too. Well,
it's
and
like
you'll see.
Charlie. Well, it's like Charlie in the Wall with all the red lines everywhere. And this is where they picked over Sanji, and this is where they picked over Sanji, and this is where they picked over Sanji. You don't understand it. They're always picking over Sanji.
Yeah, it's the Circuit conspiracy. Like you're not getting Sanji isn't being censored like Pot Step is in Vigilantes. That is a bigger problem, at least in my opinion. But and we'll get to that after this. Oh yeah, the
Uh,
Dragon Ball Super season 1 Goku was so bad. It was episode 5. It's either 3 or 5 is the one that sticks out in my mind where Goku, you see Super Saiyan 3 Goku fighting Beerus. It was just ass.
well,
Pure ass.
arguably, Super has really been the worst of the animation style, in my opinion. It came out of it with the Daima. Daima obviously had a very nice style, but it's like Super just drives me up the wall with how like this
It's so
is how I
inconsistent.
It's not only that, but it just feels like someone was told what an anime should look like. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I
it
agree with
doesn't
that.
feel like someone loves Dragon Ball doing it, you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
no it doesn't feel unique anymore. When you go back and you look at how Dragon Ball was done in the '90s and then the '90s and then the early 2000s was Boo Saga, right?
I think
Or was
early
that still the
2000 that was
'90s?
GT. If we're
Early
talking
two Yeah.
early 2000s was GT, but the difference is between then and now is that you are using digital animation now. Toei's using digital animation, whereas back then it was more hand drawn.
Well, I would
And the
argue
style.
though what I would argue though is that what they're doing with the digital is they're adding too many shadows.
They're not adding enough shading. That's my thing with the digital animation that
Would
I've
you say the
noticed.
shading's not as harsh? Because for me, I don't remember all this layered shadowing with Goku. There was like a little shadow on the edge and then the hard, dark shadow around the edge
Yeah,
of his neck and stuff.
but what
Now
it
we've got
did
all
though,
this gradient stuff going on
but
with
what
him.
and yeah, and what that shading does though is it gives I don't think people understand how significant shading is unless you're like an artist or you pay attention to this stuff like I do. Is shading gives like the characters dimension. So when you don't see any shading in there, it looks flat. It looks flatter than the manga, which is wild that anime has managed to do that.
And you know, I appreciate the old style though, where they didn't have all that gradient shape face shaping stuff to it.
Yeah.
For s- it's not so much that I have like a nostalgia boner over it, it's that it feels more germane to the manga. So when
Yeah.
you go and you start adding all these like shines and stuff to Goku's
Mm.
face and all this different like
And the hair
attitudes to the
too.
hair. Yeah, the hair has
Yeah.
all this
It
lighting
looks so
effect to it
wax
now.
yeah, and it looks so
Right,
waxy, and that's what I mean by the hair
right.
helmet effect. It very much gives like a hair
I
helmet.
see.
There's
Okay.
no
That's what we're
motion
talking
in
about.
it. Yeah, like where in
Right.
Dragon Ball Z, you saw like the hair with Goku's hair was moving. It didn't look stiff. It looked natural, or as natural as it could.
And now it's like a Lego
But Daima,
clip-on, you
yeah,
know?
that's what I mean by hair helmet realness is that you
There
get
it
that a
is. Yep.
lot. Another thing that happens a lot in anime is in modern anime especially is that the clothing has like no little to no texture to it. So it looks like it's like just stuck on their body. And then when there's injuries inflicted or whatnot onto them, maybe their face is screwed up, but the outfit is still fine, which is not good.
What I wanna point out too is that we are gonna find more, like, shortcuts in animation
Oh yeah.
until AI is able to take over the really boring stuff consistently. You'll see AI around sometimes, probably not in big titles like this, but it'll be experimented on lesser known titles that aren't as high risk of pissing off huge sectors of the fandom, and so as it works its way into being more consistent, you'll see that in there. But until then, you're going to see more of these like, okay, the battle scenes are going to be where we put a lot of emphasis. And then the stuff where
Hmm.
the characters are standing around talking, they're not going to be moving a lot.
Yeah.
And that unfortunately is going to happen for a while. And it's not necessarily because the studios are cheap. It has more to do with the fact that there just aren't people there physically are not people enough in Japan doing animation jobs. Now, there aren't enough people in Japan statistically to be getting those jobs. You can't just pop out a bunch of babies, hand them pens, and send them on their way. It
No.
takes a little while, and they also have to decide to get into that. And that's even more trickier. So, animation in Japan, while very prestigious and respected, is not well paid either. And
Nope. And there's
so,
also before I forget, a lot of it is money mismanagement from the higher ups. Because in the
yeah.
case of Mappa, from what I've been told, is Mappa invests a lot of the money into the actual talent, and because of that, they it leaves not as much money for the art and animation.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at what happened with, Vash, what is it? Is it called Vash Stampede? Is that the
Oh,
new rumored
Bash the Stampede's a little bit different because Orange has always not had that much in terms of funding. I mean, Hoseki no Kuni in 2017
Well, no, no.
was
I'm
which one are you
moreover
thinking?
pointing out that animation style, not their limitations.
No, no,
I'm
no
pointing
that's what I know, but I'm just trying to explain that it's always been that kind of thing happening. The only thing that's different, and maybe so in Bash the Stampede, is that
that's the
there's not
Trigun
as
Stampede.
much.
There it is.
Yeah, Trigun Stampede. Thank you. Um, the difference between that and say like Hoseki no Kuni is Hoseki no Kuni, not only did they use, I think they used mocap for Trigun Stampede, I could be wrong, but they also use hand-drawn animation for like the grass or for the texture of the fur on some of the creatures. And I asked them why are we not seeing this on Beastars, where you think that there would be so much texture and fur? And they said at the time it was because hand-drawn animation, or hand-drawn animators, it cost a lot to use. But then you get what happened with Dragon Ball Superhero, where it turned out it would have been a lot cheaper to do 2D animation over the CGI, and also the CGI, like the animators were treated like crap.
Yeah,
But
I mean, we had that Godzilla movie that did that CGI effect stuff, that CGI anime stuff from Dragon Ball Z Budokai.
yeah,
Excuse me. I have a throat thing. Either way. The problem is that style betrays, I would say betrays what people expect out of Japanese anime.